Welcome to highlights of Stage 2 of the Saudi Tour with me, Jez Cox. Stage 2 taking the riders in a northwesterly direction from the central hub of this race. Taibah University being the start on the outskirts of Al Ula, heading its way northwestward, traversing the edge of the Hijaz Mountains and heading up to the steep ramp that takes the riders up to Abu Rakah. A steep ramp up and a flat 700 metres or so to the very finish line itself. The riders heading off in what is winter in Saudi Arabia, around about 22 degrees, warm, not too much wind, perfect racing conditions, particularly for early February. From very early on, a breakaway of 3 riders went clear. 2 of them were in the breakaway yesterday. They were Martin Urienstad of Norway, the Uno X team, and Polykronis Torzakis, the Greek rider on the Q8 Pro cycling team, and they were in the company of the Dutchman Jeroen Myers of the Terengganu Polygon cycling team, the Malaysian team. Back in the peloton, the green jersey, the race leader, being worn by Caleb Ewan, yesterday's Stage 1 winner, of course. At the intermediate sprint points, it was Martin Urienstad picking up maximum points for his jersey classification. But gradually, as the stage wore on and the riders headed their way further and further into the 163 kilometres, that breakaway being wound right back in again. The first to go from the breakaway was Polykronis Torzakis, wearing the blue leader's jersey for the intermediate sprints classification. Leaving out front the 2 remaining riders, Jeroen Myers and Martin Urienstad. Urienstad led through the final bonification point, so adding an extra 3 seconds off his overall race time. But by this point we can see the peloton were closing in all the time, getting themselves to 30 seconds and less. Last of the riders to attack was Jeroen Myers, the Dutchman, giving it absolutely everything to be the last rider out in the lead of this, the second stage of the Saudi Tour. But even then, Quick Step, Alpha Vinyl, and the likes of Bahrain Victorious and Lotto Soudal, the team of our race leader Caleb Ewan, doing a lot on the front to try and bring things back. Team Total Energies also trying to set things up for Nicola Bonifacio in the uphill finish. The uphill finish looming all the time as the riders snake their way through the sandy and dusty roads to get to the base of that final climb. Cyril Barth coming off worst on one of the corners, managing to stay upright, but the sandy conditions at the end of the road causing problems for quite a few of the riders, as did the lumpy, bumpy speed bumps as we made their way closer and closer to the finish line. Uno X all the time trying to protect and lead out Anton Charmig, who would go on in the end to have a great finale. This was the final climb, the ramp up to the finishing straight, and you can see from the riders at the back just the damage that was being done. At the front, a cagey affair as riders stayed seated, just grinding away up this climb, but it was Santiago Buitrago, the Colombian from Bogota on the Bahrain Victorious team, who kicked hardest. Following him, the unlikely figure of Daniel Oss, now riding of course for Total Energies. Those 2 combined at the front, and then one rider would try and attack his way across. It was one of the big favourites from the day, the rider who crashed yesterday, coming 20 minutes down at stage 1, and there he goes in your pictures, Andrea Baggioli, the 22-year-old Italian, ripping his way across the gap from the remnants of our peloton to our 2 leaders. In the end, they dispatched with Oss, and it was Buitrago who went first. Baggioli, possibly telling from his big crash yesterday, had no response in the end to the Colombian. Santiago Buitrago kicking away in the final 300 metres and holding that gap to the line to take his first ever professional win. Santiago Buitrago, Bahrain Victorious, the winner of Stage 2 at probably the highest, the second highest point. I say probably, it is the second highest point of the whole Saudi Tour, because on Thursday we go into a much flatter net downhill stage tomorrow, a big one for the sprinters. So a good test of climbing legs. Santiago Buitrago, the Colombian, coming out on top today, but Baggioli showing he had recovered well from yesterday's tough crash on the sandy gravel section of Bogota. Buitrago, in doing so, took over the race lead from Caleb Ewan, the green leader's jersey on his shoulders. He'll also be leading the best young riders classification because he's only 22 years of age, and he now leads in the general classification by 7 seconds over Caleb Ewan. Anton Charmig, having moved up nicely on account of his fast finish today, now sits in 3rd place. Let's have a look at tomorrow's stage, starting out with the biggest well in the region, the Taymah Haddaj well, and heading its way southwestwards all the way to the same finishing straight that will be used for the final stage of this year's race on Saturday in Alula Old Town. That's the fantastic shots we've already seen in our coverage of the Old Town. We'll be seeing lots of them tomorrow, and here they are right now. This is where the riders will be finishing tomorrow, and the final stage, as I say, the same finishing line. The same central hub of Al Ula being used for all of these stages. Do join us tomorrow on Eurosport GCN, where Brian Smith and myself will be bringing you an exciting Stage 3.